Picture this. You're standing in front of a temple in Bangkok at sunset. Your guide, charming, attentive, impossibly good-looking, leans in close. "After this," she whispers, "I know a place the tourists never see, just you and me." Your heart races. Is this part of the tour? Or is this something else entirely? By the end of this video, you'll have your answer, and it won't be what you expected. Every year, millions of travelers book tours in Southeast Asia. They're seeking adventure, culture, and authenticity. But some of them find something else, something that doesn't appear in any guidebook. Tour guides with benefits. It's not advertised. It's never mentioned in reviews. Yet ask the right person in the right bar in Manila, Pattaya, or Phuket, and they'll tell you, this is one of travel's worst-kept secrets. Some call it romance. Others call it exploitation. The truth? It's far more complicated than either. Today, we're going where most travel channels won't. Into hotel rooms and late-night conversations. Into the blurred space between hospitality and intimacy. Into a world where a simple city tour can become the most confusing experience of your life. Because what happens when your guide offers more than just directions? Let's start with how it actually happens, because this isn't some crude proposition in broad daylight. It begins subtly. On day one of your tour, your guide is professional. Friendly, but professional. They know the history, the best photo spots, and where to eat. Standard stuff. Day 2, something shifts. They remember your name in a different tone. They touch your arm when they laugh. They ask about your personal life. Are you traveling alone? Are you married? What brings you here, really? By day 3, the boundaries have dissolved. Maybe they've invited you to their favorite local bar, somewhere tourists never go. Maybe they've offered to show you the city at night, just the two of you. Maybe they've shared something personal, a dream, a struggle, a glimpse of vulnerability that makes you feel special. And then comes the moment. Not always sexual. Sometimes it's just an invitation to extend the tour, to keep hanging out, to blur the line between professional and personal just a little bit more. For the tourist, it feels electric. Finally, you're not just another face in a crowd. You're having a real connection with a real person in a foreign place. But here's what most travelers don't realize in that moment. This might be the 5th time this month your guide has had this same conversation. Or it might be genuine. And that's precisely the problem. You literally cannot tell the difference. So why do travelers say yes? Why do they pursue these situations in the first place? The easy answer is loneliness. Travel is isolating, especially solo travel. You're surrounded by people, yet completely alone. Your guide becomes the only person who knows your name, who asks how you're doing, who makes you feel seen. But there's more to it than that. For some tourists, it's about the fantasy. Back home, they're ordinary. Average job, average life, average everything. But here, in this exotic location, they're suddenly desirable. Their foreign passport, their relative wealth, and their otherness become a form of power they've never experienced before. There's also the escape factor. What happens on vacation stays on vacation, right? No consequences, no complications. Just a beautiful person in a beautiful place, offering beautiful memories. And let's not ignore the darker motivation. Some travelers specifically seek out developing countries because they believe, correctly or not, that money talks louder there. That companionship, intimacy, even love can be purchased more easily when there's an economic disparity. One traveler I spoke with put it bluntly, "Back home, someone like her wouldn't look at me twice. But there, I was a king. The question is, was he really? Or was he just a customer who couldn't see the transaction? Now let's flip the script entirely. Because while tourists are having their fantasy, guides are making calculations. In many tourist hotspots, being a guide pays terribly. The official rate might be $15, $20 a day. You're competing with hundreds of other guides. The season is short. The money has to last. So you learn to maximize every interaction. A tourist who likes you tips better. A tourist who's attracted to you tips even better. A tourist who thinks you might be falling for them? That's when the real money starts flowing. But here's where it gets complex. Not every guide is running a con. Some genuinely develop feelings. Some are looking for their ticket out. A relationship that might lead to marriage, to sponsorship, to a visa to a wealthier country. One former guide in Manila told me, "I wasn't faking it. I really liked some of those tourists, but I also needed to feed my family." Can both things be true? And they can. That's what makes this so messy. You have guides who are pure professionals, but whose warmth gets misread. You have guides who are strategic about emotional manipulation. You have guides who fall genuinely in love, but are accused of being gold diggers. And you have guides who start genuinely, but become jaded after watching tourist after tourist fly away forever. The guide is navigating the same blurred lines as the tourist, just from the other side of the economic equation. And somewhere in that space between survival and seduction, between kindness and calculation, these relationships form. Now, before we continue, if you're getting value so far, could you please like this video? This really means a lot to me. Thank you. Here's the thing that trips up almost every foreign traveler. What counts as flirtation varies wildly across cultures. In many parts of Southeast Asia, physical closeness is normal. Holding someone's arm while walking, sitting pressed together in a cramped van, calling someone dear or love. These are standard expressions of warmth. But to a lonely traveler from a more reserved culture, every touch feels loaded. Every term of endearment feels personal. Every smile feels like an invitation. I watched this play out in real time in Manila. An American tourist was convinced his Filipina guide was falling for him. She kept calling him dear, touching his shoulder, laughing at all his jokes. To him, these were unmistakable signs. To her, she was just being natural. When he finally made a move, she was genuinely shocked and hurt. She'd thought they were becoming friends, nothing more. But here's the twist. Sometimes guides deliberately weaponize these cultural differences. They know exactly how their behavior will be interpreted. They're fluent in both their own culture and the tourist's expectations. One guide in Bali admitted, "We know what you think these gestures mean. Sometimes we're just being friendly. Sometimes we're encouraging you to think there's more there. It depends on the person." The result? A relationship where both parties are constantly misreading signals, constantly unsure where they stand, constantly seeing what they want to see rather than what's actually there. And that ambiguity? That's where the real damage happens. Because beneath all the individual stories, there's a system, an entire shadow economy built on this dynamic. In some destinations, offering companionship services is understood to be part of the guide's repertoire. It's not in the job description, but it's in the economics. A guide who connects emotionally with tourists can triple their income. They get bigger tips, expensive gifts, and sometimes ongoing financial support from abroad. Some guides maintain relationships with multiple foreign sponsors, receiving monthly transfers while continuing to work with new tourists. There are entire online communities where travelers share which guides are friendly, which cities are best for these arrangements, and how much to offer. It's treated like insider knowledge, passed quietly from one traveler to the next. And on the other side, guides compare notes too. Which nationalities tip best? Which ones are looking for romance versus just companionship? How to read a tourist's intentions within the first hour. This economy operates completely outside official tourism channels. No taxes paid, no regulations enforced, no protections for either party. It exists in the space between legal and illegal, between service and relationship, between work and intimacy. Governments mostly ignore it because acknowledging it would require confronting uncomfortable truths about tourism's economic realities. The fact that many destinations rely on this informal economy. What draws tourists isn't just the beaches or the temples, it's the promise of connection that might come with them. So here's where we land. When your guide offers more than just a tour, what is it actually? Is it love? Sometimes, genuinely, yes. Some couples met this way and have been married for years. Relationships that started transactionally but became real. Guides and tourists who saw past the economics and the cultural barriers and found something authentic. Is it business? Often, yes. A service being offered, a need being filled, an economic transaction dressed up in romantic language. No different, some would argue, than any other form of paid companionship, just less explicitly labeled. Is it exploitation? That depends entirely on who you ask. Some tourists feel used when they realize the emotional connection wasn't what they thought. Some guides feel used when tourists take their companionship but leave them with nothing. Some relationships involve genuine coercion or manipulation in either direction. The unsettling truth is that it can be all three things at once, or it can shift from one to another over the course of days or weeks. A guide might start strategically and develop genuine feelings. A tourist might think they're falling in love and then realize they were just lonely. There's no easy answer because these aren't simple situations. They're human relationships formed in the complex space where money, culture, desire, and desperation intersect. Travel promises transformation, a chance to see the world differently, to see yourself differently. And sometimes that transformation happens through connection with another person. But when that person is your guide, when there's an inherent power imbalance, economic disparity, cultural misunderstanding, and professional boundary all tangled together, the transformation can cut both ways. For every beautiful story of unlikely love, there's a story of heartbreak. For every guide who found their way to a better life, there's one who learned to see tourists as nothing more than walking ATMs. For every tourist who had their eyes open to a new culture, there's one who got exactly what they paid for and nothing more. Tour guides with benefits exist in the shadows of travel because they're too complicated for anyone to want to examine closely. They're messy and morally ambiguous and impossible to categorize neatly. But they're real. And if you travel long enough, especially to certain parts of the world, you'll eventually find yourself in a moment where your guide looks at you differently. Where the professional mask slips. You have to decide what this is and what you want it to be. And in that moment, the only thing you can know for certain is this. Whatever happens next, someone is going to walk away with a story that's completely different from the other person's version. So I'll leave you with this question. If you can't tell whether it's love or business, does that tell you everything you need to know? Drop your thoughts below and subscribe, because in the next episode, We're going even deeper into why some travelers build their entire trip around this experience, as we discuss why some travelers want more than just a tour in the next episode. Make sure you watch it.